Today we are going to look at classroom management. A point system is one of the most valuable classroom management tools that an English ESL teacher has. I split my class into teams based on rows and get them to give me a team name based on fruits or animals or color, etc.
Think about what? Fruit. What fruit do you like? Let's see. Yes. Watermelon. Let's see. What fruit do you like? Peach.
I use a tally system as it's easier for me to alter and add or deduct points. But you could easily just use stars, smiley faces, whatever you choose. A point system has many benefits. Firstly, it's fun. Students and kids thrive on healthy competition. It can be a means to encourage students with extra points for longer answers and more participation.
Okay. Yeah. Very good. Hey.
It's also a way to discipline students by taking away points for behavior you don't want. Mostly, I think it as a way to communicate. It's a lot easier to point at students who are standing up, for example, and erase their point, than it is to try and explain that they are standing up and you don't want them to do that, as often your explanation is at a higher level than their actual English. Now, you can reward the teams that have accumulated the most points, the ones that are number one. You can reward them with stickers, like my school has, and many schools in China have these things. You can give them candies, but you have to consider the cost there. Or what I like to do, just give them high fives and claps and a round of applause. Make it mean something to them as much as it means to you.
So routines are a marvelous classroom management technique, but what do I mean by that? So you may think that doing something new every class will be a marvelous way to keep students excited for learning. However, often you find in practice that students are confused and you in turn are exhausted. Here's the problem. You aren't just teaching new target language each class, but you're teaching a new game, a new method, a new activity, which means extra work for your students and extra work for you, as it's two things that you have to focus on: the language learning and the learning of the new activity, game, etc. I basically follow the same pattern every class of presentation, practice and production, and I have a toolbox of 3 to 5 methods and activities, games of completing these sections. The students become familiar with these methods over time, therefore I spend less time demonstrating and explaining and more time teaching and practicing that target language. Students in turn are more confident in participating, as they only have to remember how to use the target language and nothing else. Keep that in mind. Routines don't have to be boring. If you change and use the target language with methods and activities and games that you've used before, that's fine. Students thrive on structure, and routines is one part of that.
Let's take a look at some examples of good teaching materials and maybe those that are not so good.
When choosing music, you want to choose music that's fun, catchy, and if possible has a dance. This song is Bingo, B-I-N-G-O, very popular song. I think the video on the right is much better. Why? Because it has the lyrics, it's bold, it's bright, and it's with the theme of the song. If you look at the video on the left, I wouldn't know that that's anything to do with B-I-N-G-O song. When introducing target language, try to do something like on the right slide here. Include the target language on the screen. Try to find a picture or animated GIF that's fun and draws the attention. Stay away from bland pictures and make sure to include the text. When asking questions, try to put options up on the screen, like on the right. You can even include numbers if they can't say the full sentence. Make sure to add sound effects so they get applause if they answer the question correctly, or a buzzer if it's wrong. Including options and numbers to select allows lower level students to participate in the class and not feel excluded. With reading, remember, you can grade the language to suit your needs. You can also change it to make it bigger and bolder and easier for students to read. When explaining grammar, stay away from long, lengthy, bland sentences. Instead, try to keep your explanations short and concise, and use many examples with highlighting to show your target language. When playing games, like for example charades, make sure to include either the rules or the target language options up on the screen to make it easier for students to complete the game.
The most effective classroom management is proactive, not reactive. But how can you be proactive? Well, one way is your choice of teaching material. Firstly, your materials, your PowerPoint, PPTs, songs, stories, games, etc. should be appropriate for your students' age and graded to their English level. Next, you need to choose materials that appeal to a child's eyes. So it should be bright, colourful, fun, funny, and even cute. Take a look at the day-to-day books, TVs, movies, and songs that these children regularly enjoy and consume, as this is a good idea of how your materials should look. So, having appropriate and engaging teaching materials will always set you up for a successful class. Compliance is basically having students do what you tell them to do. But how do you achieve that? Well, you build it and you train them. My first few classes with new students will always start with me teaching classroom commands and rules. These commands I turn into a compliance sequence by getting students to act out these commands and reward them with points and praise students who are the most compliant. You can have the students stand up or sit down or be quiet or hands up or hands down, even listen or curl your tongue or stand on one leg. Remember to throw in some funny ones, get them laughing, but most of all make sure that they follow along with what you're doing and asking them to do. Now, once they get used to this, I will often speed up these sequences. Speeding up is always fun, and I will do games like Simon Says to test them and to just change it up. I will continue to do these sort of compliance tests and sequences throughout the year, so customers naturally become accustomed to doing what I say without even questioning it. So this is how you build compliance in your class. You build it, you train it, and you practice it.
Let's say the rules. You ready? Together. Look at teacher. Oh. These are very good. Listen to teacher. Answer teacher. Good. Be quiet. Sit down.
Students can be disruptive for a multitude of reasons, from boredom to attention seeking to even special needs. There's no one way to deal with disruption, so here are a few strategies that I use. I found the most effective way to deal with disruptive students is peer discipline. I use a points tally reward system. So if a student from a team is disruptive, I will deduct a point from their team. Normally the other students from that team will let that disruptive student know that they don't want them to be disruptive because they lose points. Note, you should also get the disruptive student's attention and make sure that they see you deduct a point because of their poor behavior. Now, if peer discipline doesn't work, I will have a disruptive student stand by their seat. If they continue to be disruptive, I will bring them to the front of the class. If they continue to be disruptive, I will put them outside of the class. And if they continue to be disruptive outside of the class, I will then take them to their head teacher, their homeroom teacher, or in Chinese their Banju Ren, and explain the situation. Or if I can't find the Banju Ren, I will take a picture of the disruptive student and explain that situation to them later on when I talk with the head teacher or homeroom teacher. Now, I do these things as quickly as I can to reduce any sort of class disruption and not to reward these disruptive students with my attention. I want to only give my well-behaved students my undivided attention, not the disruptive ones, as it's not a reward. Normally in my classes I have some sort of reward for if the students are good. Usually this is a short fun video that we watch at the end of the class. During this video I will take out the disruptive students and I'll try my best to explain to them their poor behavior, and I don't want them to do that, and I will make them pinky swear that they won't do it another time. If they are very disruptive, then they won't get to watch any of this fun video at all, and I will just send them out of the class. If you can't send them out of the class, you can always take their chair and change it so they can't see the video at all. How do you start your class? Do you enter the classroom and ask the students politely to sit down? Or do you tell them to sit down as you patrol your class? Energy is important in a class. You are teaching children, and kids have a lot of energy. To draw their attention, you can match those levels of energy initially. Project your energy. Use it to boss the children around. Think about all those children's TV presenters that you grew up with. They are good examples of the sort of energy that you want to project. If you aren't excited for your class, then why should the children be? Are you having a bad day? Fake it. You can do that. You're an adult, and you never know, you actually might change your own mood. So energy levels, important, use it.
So do you ever come into a class, it's really loud, it's really noisy, and they're all stood up? One thing I suggest using is a Settlor. By that is you put up a cartoon or part of a movie, and once the students settle down and they're in their seats, then you can start your lesson and your PowerPoint.
I knew he would be safe. Nonsense! You don't understand anything! The worst one is coming up. Next is the magic minute! But that won't be too hard for him.
That's what everyone thinks. The kind people find that they are good. Brave men discover that they are really cowards. Confronted with their true selves, most men run away.
Okay, so we watch more movie after. Yes. Let's get some points.
And remind them if they keep quiet during the class, then you will be able to show them more later on.